G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. You are here today because it's Tuesday. You are here today because you are the greatest rugby fans on the planet. You are here today because the All Blacks has just announced Sir Fozzie's replacement for after the 2023 Rugby World Cup. I'm so excited, I can't even speak properly, and to nobody's surprise, it's Scott Razor Robertson. Now, the mainstream media will have you believe that this announcement press conference went swimmingly well, but I watched the video and oh boy, this is a train wreck. This announcement was a train wreck. Razor Robertson looked like O.J. Simpson's at the trials. He was. We will watch this. We will watch some of the highlights just so you know how bad this actually was. Okay, this was so bad. This has to be one of the most embarrassing moments in New Zealand rugby. This announcement right here is one of the most embarrassing things. In fact, the most embarrassing things in New Zealand rugby's history I have ever seen. This is worse than losing the Rugby World Cup, okay? We will watch some of the cringe-worthy moments of this video, okay? So I've, just to spare you 22 minutes, all right? So first off, there is clearly a conspiracy here, right? So all the comments are just congrats, Razor, congrats, finally, it's all positive. None of these people who commented here actually watched the video. If they watched 2 minutes, they will realize this video is an absolute train wreck. So I feel like someone on New Zealand Rugby is deleting comments because it's all just good comments here, like great, congrats. So yeah, knowing that New Zealand Rugby is probably trying to, covering up the narrative, I'm gonna show you the cringiness of this actual announcement. So let's go to some timestamp that we got here. So first one is 1:41:24. Without further ado, so I'm gonna repeat the question because the questions are a little bit quiet. So I'm gonna repeat the question for you. So the first question is,
also want to recognise the incumbent All Black coaching team and Ian Foster and all of his staff and the team as they look to head towards Rugby World Cup 2023 in France. They have our 100% support as they go into that tournament.
Watch Razor's reaction when he says this. 100% support, right?
And we're looking forward to working with them over the next 6 months to do everything we can.
Suddenly the collar's a little bit tight when the CEO mentions 100% support for the current All Blacks team. Yeah, Razor's getting a little bit uncomfortable. This is just the beginning. So let's go to 5 minutes and 6 seconds, right? So Razor was asked, what you gonna do differently for the All Blacks? Okay? 5:06.
What are you going to do differently for the All Blacks as a coach?
As a coach?
Foster.
Oh, we're different people, different coaches, so we'll bring in different aspects. He's extremely successful, and his time as a coach, and I have been sort of doing their own ways. Like I think, how I leave my mark on the group is. What I presented on today. I can go through the presentation again if you want, but I think,
Let's go through the presentation, please, because I really want to know as well. Okay, what are you gonna do differently? So really awkward answer there from Razor. 2 minutes later, 7:10. Right? Let's have a look at 7:10. Right. So the question is, how many people did you interview for this role? Okay.
Who did you interview for this role?
Oh, look, we're not getting into the details of the around the process, number of candidates. But as Dame Patsy has signalled, we are really comfortable with the number of conversations we had with people around the wider coaching environment as it relates to New Zealand and this potential role with the All Blacks. And we did a lot of due diligence behind the scenes. So we are we're very happy with where we've landed.
So yeah, just give us a number, mate. I'm pretty sure the CEO Robbo, let's just call him, because his last name is also Robertson. Pretty sure the CEO is, you just have to tell us a number, mate. Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 5? It's not that hard, right? Just tell us a number. How many people did you interview for the All Blacks role? Is it 1? Okay, just tell us. So yeah, he can't tell us the number of how many people they've interviewed. So a few minutes later, let's ask this one, right? Okay, let's skip this one because I got this one a bit later as well. So 9:28 is the next one. 9:26. Let's just go here. So the question here is, you have announced that the New Zealand Rugby came out announced it's gonna take them 4 to 8 weeks to find a new replacement, but they've managed to find Robertson in about 3 weeks. So yeah, let's see what they have to say with this question. Okay.
You always like to hedge. We don't like to disappoint, so it's always better to estimate a little bit longer than you think. But I think we always hoped to be able to work to a timetable pretty close to this one, because it fitted in well with our board program for the year, and so I'm pleased that we're able to.
Yeah, it fitted in with the board members program for the year, so that's why it didn't take them 8 weeks, right? It only took them 3 or 4 in that matter. Now the next one, 10:20. So the question is to Razor, right, the new coach, how serious were the talks with other nations? Because Razor was basically talking to England. There was some speculation that he might take the England job after Eddie Jones. So how serious were your talks with the other nations, Razor?
It's pretty irrelevant now. I'm here now, mate, so I think that's what we're focused on. Look, there was options, yeah. But this is my preferred, so, yeah.
The suggestion is obviously that you agitated for this position to be sort of ahead of the World Cup.
Okay, so the follow-up question is really, really brutal. I don't know if you could hear it, but the follow-up question is, the suggestion is that you agitated for the decision to be sorted out ahead of the World Cup. Basically, Razor 4 weeks ago, he basically came out and hinted that he was going to be the new All Blacks coach, and then this stirred up a lot of discussions. He was last year he was visiting England camp, he was going to get the England job essentially. So maybe people were suggesting that he was putting a lot of background pressure for New Zealand Rugby to hire him before the Rugby World Cup to confirm the role. That was basically the question, right? Now let's see the answer.
Yeah, look, you're talking about at the moment, probably about a month ago.
In the build-up to this decision.
Oh yeah. Look, it probably wasn't I could have been better around at the moment, and in the media a little while ago. There was no posturing or anything involved with that. What I was trying to say in something else was a bit different, so there was no maliciousness or anything like that in it, and I owned it pretty quickly, ran who I needed to, and so we moved on. Yeah.
Can you understand why the incumbent might have been dissatisfied with picking his replacement ahead of time, which he thinks, undermines the All Blacks' chances of this World Cup?
That's one for Robbo.
Yeah, look.
Okay, so the next follow-up was that, I don't know if you can hear the question. The next follow-up was, can you understand that the incumbent might be dissatisfied about the picking of his replacement ahead of time? And then Razor just goes, oh yeah, this one's for you, Robert, because it was actually directed at Razor, hey, have you, do you realize how rude you were being, pressuring New Zealand Rugby to assign you as, as a coach? What you were doing was really rude. But Razor just went, oh yeah, this one's for you, mate. I'm not taking this one. So yeah, watch the response from the CEO, okay?
That's the questions around process are ours here, and we're very clear that we believe this is the right process for an international coaching environment that is changing rapidly. So ultimately, we have owned that process. We believe it's the right thing to do. We stand by that very strongly at this time, and we understand that a lot of decisions we make are going to entail some scrutiny.
Yeah, we believe in it strongly at this time. Okay. So the next part is 1322, right? Let's get there. 1322. Okay. So the question is, you say you have 100% support for Ian Foster and current group for the World Cup. How can you have 100% when you are replacing him? This is a brutal question, okay? Let's hear it.
100% support in Foster and the current group leading up to the World Cup, at the World Cup. But how can you have 100% support when you're replacing him?
Well, we're not. He is, as we said through last year, he is 100% support through to the World Cup. We've been very clear and consistent on that. We're doing everything we possibly can to make sure this team has all the support it can to be successful, and we'll continue to do that. We're like everyone in New Zealand, that we want only the best for this team over the next 6 or 7 months. So we'll carry on doing that. This is a day to recognise, Scott's appointment, and then tomorrow we're back into doing everything we can around all of our national programs, but especially the All Blacks in the Rugby World Cup year.
Were you able to speak to Ian Foster to give him this news before it went public?
Okay, so the next bit, this has been talked a little bit before. So basically, currently Fozzie is in Europe, which is in a different time zone. So at the time of this announcement, Fozzie is basically still asleep. And the question is, have you told Fozzie? Right? It's not exactly what he said, but basically the reporter's like, have you told Ian Foster?
Well, like I say, he's. I think it's been pointed out a few times. He's in a different time zone at the moment. We've certainly been in contact, we've been in contact recently to reach out and have that chat if we can.
So he's like skirting the question, right? And one of the reporter just goes, "Does he know?"
No.
Depends if he's awake.
Well, I don't know what time it is in Paris, but
He's going to wake up and find this out.
he has been communicated with his announcement
Is he gonna wake up and find this out?
coming today, like
He
a
knew
lot of the
that.
key people, partners have. Yeah.
Scott, you will see.
Oh, it's so bad. It's just so bad. So next one. 1536, right? So this one's directed at Razor, right? The question is basically saying that, the All Blacks normally gets a coach that has international experience. Razor only coached the Crusaders whilst being really successful. So the question basically says, how did you convince the panel that no international experience is required for the job, right? That's basically the question. And let's see the response.
To convince the panel it wasn't.
It was one of the questions. How do I put this? It was around. My answer was around, continued success compared to international experience. So the balance of the two. So bringing the success with me and my formula and how I've done it, and also the selection, the relationships I built, so the whole package around it, and giving examples that people have done it without international experience that have come in and been successful straight away because of their continued success. So, yeah.
Just continue the success. Just continue success, mate. Just continue success. Now, finally, the last bit is another question with regards to the selection process. So one of the person asked, what's her name? Patty, was like, could you tell us who's on the selection panel? Again, it should be pretty straightforward, right? Like, John Kerwin, whoever, right? Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, and then, let's put in, who else was it? Who was it? Graham Henry, right? That's the selection board. There it is. It should be a pretty straightforward question. Who's on the selection board? Just tell us. There should be a list, right?
It's really, that's part of a process that's been robust. So there's been more than the interview panel. There's been due diligence done to a large extent. Robbo, you might like to comment more. Certainly, Robbo was on it. But
yeah, we're happy
Palm it
to,
off.
as Patsy said. There's a very robust process of which the panel discussion was an important part of, but certainly not the sole part of the process. But we had
So, okay. So, there's a panel, right? But the panel's decision, it's not final. That's basically what he said. So, who actually makes a decision? Probably him, right? So, yeah, the panel is probably just a show of confidence, but the final decision will have to be made by him. Or anyway, I don't know, it could be. But, you figure this would be a really easy answer, right? Like, we had a panel, we selected former All Blacks and coaches, and then they voted, and then we interview, how many coaches did you interview, right? We interviewed 3 coaches, Jamie Joseph, Razor Robertson, and then Warren Gatland, right? Or whoever else, right? And then we had the panels come in, which consisted of 10 former All Blacks, and then 5 former All Blacks coaches, and then we did the presentation, everybody voted, and then Razor was selected. Should be pretty straightforward answer, right? And these people can't even give us a straight answer. This is more complicated than selecting the Pope, right? Where is the purple smoke? Where's the black smoke? Okay, give us a sign. Tell us how it works. It's not that hard, right? I mean, geez, it's like the most embarrassing thing I have ever seen out of New Zealand rugby. And I think something's wrong with this comment section, because it's all congratulations. If you actually, I think they actually deleted comments, because if you actually watch the interview, or maybe they didn't watch the whole interview, that's probably more like. But yeah, now you've watched it. Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, the Grand Slam happened on the weekend. Let's move on. Ireland beating England against a 14-man England team in St. Paddy's Day in Ireland at Lansdowne Road. But obviously the talking point came out to whether this was a red card or not. So Ireland was the better team overall, but England did put up a great fight with 14 players. Freddie Stewart was red carded for basically what's called a rugby incident. A lot of people are calling this a rugby incident. Should not be a red card. I thought so too. I do think that the referee probably took the rule of the book a little bit too strictly. It was very, very minor. Freddie Stewart did look like he was trying to tuck himself back in and pull out, but Keenan hit him in the face with his hand. Basically, red card. Yeah, really, really unfortunate, but good for Ireland. It was a Grand Slam, and quite an impressive year for Ireland going into the Rugby World Cup. They won all of their matches, starting with starting with Wales, and then beating France. This was probably their toughest test, but that was a very dominant performance over France. And also beating Italy a week later. Scotland was also a very tough game for the Irish team. This was away in Scotland, and then Scotland really put up a fight. He took the Irish late in the second half, basically to put the Irish away, and finally against England. England really wanted to spoil the party after the embarrassing loss against France the week before. So yeah, this was not an easy feat for the Irish team, but congratulations, they finally have done it. And on the other end, the Irish under-20s also gets a Grand Slam, so the future of the Irish rugby is looking quite good as well. So there is a short list for Six Nations players play of the tournament, I guess. And there was 3 Irish players, and I thought it was a surprise to see it was Keenan, Mac Hansen, and Keelan Doris was selected from the Irish side. And then 3 more was selected from the French team. Anton Dupont, Thomas Ramos, and Damien Penaud. I was for sure Johnny Sexton should have been nominated, because he is absolutely the greatest of all time. But yeah, it is what it is. Probably a bit rigged. And who would you vote for? I guess that's the question. Wallabies, Rob Simmons has left England's premiership, so there's some financial issues in England rugby at the moment with the Wasps and the Warriors going under. So Simmons has left for France, along with some other English players like Sam Simmons, who also left for France. And then obviously France in the weekend has beaten Wales at home. This was a much better performance by Wales. Did look much better than did actually convert a lot of things that they were showing a few weeks ago early in the tournament, where they're not able to execute due to poor. Basically, yeah, they were doing stuff that they were doing stuff, but they weren't able to get the results before. So this week they found a bit of that result against France. A much better performance. What was the score? Final score? By anyway, the France beat Wales. But yeah, basically Gautier came out and said that they're really confident. This is they hope that other teams are scared of them, try to build that reputation up as a scary team. And then he also tried to prompt up the fact that France only lost one test at home for a very long time. So that's another thing, because it's going to be a home World Cup for the French. So I do think that the loss against Ireland was a big thing for France to just get that weight of themselves. They were on like a winning streak, unbeaten winning streak, to get that weight of themselves. So it could be like, and it also was a bit of a wake-up call. The French team play a lot better afterwards. So yeah, they were on the rise again, which is looking really, really good for the French team. Like I said, the Welsh team much better. Some records was broken against the French. So George North became one of the top 10 international try scorers after this game. So yeah, George North scores. I think the last time he scored was like 2 years ago as well. It's been a very long time since he scored for Wales due to injuries and whatnot. But this was the score: 41 points to 28. Wales was able to actually stay quite close for about half the game or so before the French was able to finally overcome with their faster style of rugby. Next up, we've got the Six Nations in numbers. Probably won't read that because we're already taking too long with the All Blacks, but you can go have a look at it yourself a bit later. So next game up is Scotland versus Italy. So there was a little bit of referee issue came out of the Scotland team. Anyway, there was a little bit of referee issue come out of the Scotland game. So there was some accusations of offside against Scotland before Gardner was ruled a knock on, and then kind of like allows Scotland to do a scrum, and then eventually Scotland score, alleviating a lot of the pressure that Italy had, and then the opportunity for Italy to kind of like put up an upset. So there was a lot of talks about that. There was a lot of talk about there was a throat strike by the Italian players to the Scottish team. This looked like a red card to me, to be honest. Was it this one? But it was ruled a yellow card because I think it was this one. Was it a different game I'm thinking about? But anyway, there was some controversy out of this game. But anyway, Scotland was able to pull out a last minute win. Pull out a last minute win over bonus point win over Italians after absorbing a lot of pressure. Really good effort for Scottish team. Gregor Townsend is in discussion with Scottish Rugby with his future contract. So he is currently due to finish his term at the end of the Rugby World Cup. So with the Scottish team setup, I do think Townsend could probably get an extension. He's done I thought he's done, given the given what given a lot of the off-field ill discipline by the Scottish players, I do think that Townsend had a lot to work against him, but I think he probably do deserve a bit more time for the Scottish team. So with that said, the All Blacks is falling apart from the inside. So the All Blacks head coach, one of the very important coaches, Gilbert Inoka, who's the mental skills coach. So the All Blacks has always known to have one of the strongest mental fortitudes in the world. He is the one that builds that for the team. He's the one that gives the All Blacks the mentality to come back from a deficit. That he is the one that trains the players to keep their mental attitude positive and then to work through adversity. He's going to be leaving the All Blacks after the 2023 World Cup, so Razor will not have access to him after the World Cup, and he's had 20-year career, nearly worked with the All Blacks for 300 tests. Yeah, so he was here since 2003, since since basically during the golden era of the All Blacks of the last 20 years. So the Nigel Owens, they talk about the red card that was missed. The one that's the Stroh strike. Yeah, Azuri winger. But this was against Wales. But anyway, I got that confused. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So England has reviewed some injury issues. Ollie Chesham, who was pulled out of the test match against Ireland due to a serious ankle injury. So he's now on the race to come back to potentially make it for the Rugby World Cup. So obviously Eddie Jones has been stirring up a lot of talks about stealing players from Rugby League. And one of the Rugby League's managers actually called him out last week. David Rawlings called him out about, trying to, stirring up all these talks about contracts whilst failing to, look after their own players. One of the players he's managing basically is Tom Wright. He basically said that the players currently in Rugby Australia took like a pay cut during the COVID, and the pay cut hasn't been re-established since the COVID restriction. So he's not really happy about that. And this is, and this was on the back end of losing P. Samuel to French club Bordeaux. So a huge name that's leaving Australia as well due to, I guess, the pay being reduced. Yeah, not very good for Australian rugby. So yeah, there's some talks about Tuivasa Sheck after the Crusaders game. But anyway, so the Crusaders and the Blues had like a huge game on the weekend. This was basically the top two teams in New Zealand. I can't remember the score. I don't have the score here. But basically, the Crusaders was under the pump for the last maybe 10 minutes or so. And again, they were able to defuse the Blues opportunities, like defuse the Blues try attempts, and then hold on to a win over the Blues. It was absolutely spectacular. Just quickly go through this because this is getting a bit too long. So other Super Rugby results: the Brumbies beat Moana Pacifica in Canberra. So Moana Pacifica was actually hanging pretty tight. It was like 36-36, like in the second half, like early in the second half. So there was like pretty close game before the Brumbies pulled away and with their reserves. The second game was the other game. Anyway, this was the first game actually. Hurricanes to the Waratahs. Hurricanes beat the Waratahs quite convincingly. It is what it is. The Waratahs. I do think that if you're playing players like Nardolo on the wing, I don't know, like you should be developing new players. And Waratahs nowadays has become like a retirement village. They had Jamie Roberts here just to retire. I guess Nardolo is on the verge of his retirement as well, so they just might as well get him here and give him like a starting position, I guess now. It's just, I don't know what the Waratahs doing these days. The Chiefs, once again, put out a huge win against the Rebels, despite having, I think, 3 of their All Blacks misses. Sam Cane, D-Mac, and what's his name? D-Mac and I think Brad Weber was all missing in this game. So the Chiefs were still able to pull out a pretty dominant win, still quite too strong over the Rebels. The Rebels did look very good for a brief period in the middle of the game. But then, the Chiefs was just a bit too strong and too consistent for the entire duration. But I thought the Rebels looked good. Like in some periods, they looked like they were, like neck to neck with the Chiefs, but they wasn't able to do that for the entire duration of the game. Reece Hodge had an injury as well. I hope he's going to be able to play for the World Cup. He was with a sling on his hand, so that's a huge loss for the Wallabies. Highlanders finally got their first win over the Western Force. The Landers, again, was neck to neck with the Western Force. A lot of back and forth with the points. And then the second half, the game just completely opened up. Highlanders eventually winning the game 43-35. Finally, the Fijian Endurance versus Reds. This was a huge game for the Endurance. The Reds were like comfortably leading into the second half by, I think it was, 4 tries to 3, just the conversion. The Reds was leading 4 tries, I think it was 24-3 early into the second half, right? And then the Jurors just came back and they fought, I think it was to 3 or to 6. They fought their way back. They got within 3 points reach of the Reds. The Reds had to basically put a penalty in and just try to hold on for that 3 points, but the Jurors pounded. And eventually it was Dogunu, another Fijian for the Reds, that sealed the ball at the breakdown to win the game for the Reds on the dying minutes of the game to hold on to that 3 point leads for the Reds. yeah, really, really good effort for the Enduro once again. And that's the news for the week, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about the All Blacks selection. And I'll see you guys this week later for the Super Rugby review. Cheers.